When you ignore front desk collections, you risk losing a lot of money. And just how much? Well, according to a 2020 MGMA survey, Medical Group Management Association, loss from poor billing and collections account for about 3 to 5% of annual collections, which is about $46,000 to $77,000 a year. And you may be wondering, well, just exactly what does that mean? Well, it means every single year you're losing the ability to buy a new, well-appointed Tesla Model 3 or a very well-appointed Ford F-150. Also, this is, we're taking the conservative side of about $46,000. This is about 10 pairs of Jimmy Choo Aaliyah 85 embellished pumps or 9 Prada quilted Napa leather shoulder bags. That's correct. So even if you take it on the low end, it's about a loss of $46,000. And in light of what you just may have learned just a few days ago, on November 2nd of this year, CMS, also known as Medicare, they released the physician fee schedule. And get this, yes, another 3.4% decrease in the conversion factor. We're not even talking about pay-go and sequestration decreases and cuts. Many of you who are astute know that urologists have gotten no raises over the last 15 to 20 years. With rising labor costs, everything is increasing in cost, plus inflation. You cannot survive today without being diligent in collecting what is appropriately and rightfully yours in today's practice. In this video, I'm going to discuss the why and, more importantly, the how of effective front desk collections. These ideas I'll be sharing today came from Urology Advanced Coding and Reimbursement Seminar, which was held several years ago. I took copious notes, and I'm sharing these ideas with you today. For those of you who do not know me, my name is John Lin. I'm a urologist in Gilbert, Arizona, also your humble host of the Thriving Urology Practice Facebook group, where we crowdsource practice management solutions for everyone's benefit. So I'm going to be going over several ideas. Number one, and this is very important, you are running a business as a urology practice, and your patient success depends on your success. And I'll say this again, your patient success depends on your success. There's no shame in running a profitable practice. And I used to say it this way, which rubbed people the wrong way. So I no longer say it this way, but I used to say, your number one job as a urologist is not to take care of patients, but to run a profitable practice. Yeah, you're like, what? So what am I saying here? Your success, your patient success depends on your success. If you're not running a profitable practice, you won't have the privilege to take care of patients. You will not be able to meet payroll. Your employees will not be able to get raises. You will not be able to pay your malpractice, your mortgage, your rent, insurance overall for your practice. So you have to recognize that you're running a business and you have to run a profitable business. That's why front desk collections are very important. Over a decade now that I've been running my practice, the number one payer is not Blue Cross, is not Cigna, is not United. It's actually what patients pay me directly, out-of-pocket expenses. And point number two is that high deductible health plans is now the norm. And that's why so much of my revenue has been from what patients pay. What they pay out of pocket has been the number one payer, if you will, over several years. I remember several years ago when I had one of the plans through the marketplace, Obamacare plans. The coverage is horrible. And not only that, my deductible was 5 figures. That means before the insurance even pays a penny, I had to pay out of pocket 5 figures. Okay. So that is how much patient responsibility plays a role in how much you would need to collect, because this is how the insurance plans are set up. The high deductible plans make it much more affordable. It wasn't really that affordable, but I don't even know how people pay for Obamacare plans. Even if you buy one of the lower tier plans, the patient responsibility is still very, very high. That means they have to capital outlay a lot before the insurance pays. That means you as a practice will need to collect that from the patient before the insurance will kick in. If you're not doing that, you're leaving a lot of money uncollected, and that's going to impact directly to the bottom line and your ability to pay your staff appropriately, adequately, and to give them the raises that they deserve. Also, you need to collect that to stay alive, to stay afloat. All right, so point number 3, in order to effectively collect upfront, you need to determine eligibility, benefits, copay, coinsurance, unmet deductible before the patient gets to that front desk window. So that means, unfortunately, you have to dedicate staff, energy, and maybe an FTE, maybe 2 FTEs to look ahead, and or at the time of the patient's calling the office to make the appointment, you need to determine the eligibility, whether or not you are even contracted with that insurance, whether or not the patient actually has an eligible plan and is actually covered. Have they paid the premium? Are they really on that plan? And specifically, what exact plan are they on? Also, what is their copay, coinsurance, unmet deductible? Because you're going to need to determine how much they owe before they arrive. And you want to notify the patients before they get to the office. At the front desk is not where you discuss how much they owe and how they're going to pay. Consider texting or calling the patient, especially if they have a high amount that they're going to need to outlay when they come to see you. Better yet, you want to provide a written estimate of charges to the patients prior to the appointment, prior to the scheduled surgery, and prior to any in-office procedure. There's nothing worse than getting that surprise bill. And I don't know of any other industry where you provide the service first and then you try to chase after the money later. Any other industry besides healthcare, right? You call a plumber, they're going to give you an estimate, they're going to tell you how much it is, and they're going to collect it right away. You go to the dentist, they do the same thing, although some of them are following suit with what medicine is doing and taking insurance, and they're going down the hole of being gobbled up by DSOs, dental service organizations, consolidation, basically private equity, if you will. So unfortunately, they're following that path. Regardless, not many industries other than healthcare where you don't provide an estimate and collect up front, right? So provide a written estimate of charges to the patient prior to the service and collect that at the time of service. Point number 4. There's a way to ask for payment. And many of you already know this. Instead of asking, hey, Mr. Hamilton, you have a $500 deductible that you need to meet. The procedure today will cost about that amount. It's not, how would you like to pay? It's not, would you like to pay that today? But how would you like to pay today? How would you like to pay today? You can also say, we take cryptocurrency, Venmo, Visa, MasterCard, checks, and cash. Actually, I don't take any crypto or Venmo, but we do take Visa, MasterCard, checks, and cash. Offer these payment plans or these payment options for the patient, and consider rescheduling non-emergent patient visits until they have the funds. And for the patients who have a balance due, try or consider not scheduling the patient until they have paid the prior balance. The thing is, patients who don't pay you, they have a balance, or they don't pay you in general, they don't value your service. They don't value the product or service. Imagine a relationship that you may be in with a partner. If they are constantly verbally or physically abusing you, do they really value you? They don't. Likewise, patients who do not pay you, they don't value your services. My question to you is, do you want to continue that relationship? Do you want to maintain that relationship? Or are you going to continue in that abusive relationship, right? You also want to train the staff on clear communication skills in elucidating, this is the amount that you owe. We are going to collect this at the time of service when you come into the office. Make sure they are well articulated in the amount that the patient's going to owe, and ask appropriately, how would you like to pay? It's not would you like to pay, it's how would you like to pay, okay? And lastly, on this point, I've heard other practices where physicians get involved in the front desk collection efforts, meaning the physicians will say, well, don't worry about that. We'll write it off. We will bill you for it, or don't worry about the copay or deductible. The point is, do not undermine the front desk staff's authority by overriding policy. Once you set a policy, stick with it, okay? Don't try to undermine what your front desk is trying to do. You want to back them up and not try to undermine and try to override the policy. The way I tell, when patients ask me about payment and things like that, I tell them I have no idea. I really don't, because every insurance plan is different. And within a plan, you have different policies. I have no idea. Unfortunately, that's why I had to hire so many people to figure that out. I have enough to worry about in the clinical aspect of medicine. I don't have time or the energy or I don't have room to figure that out. I don't have the bandwidth to figure out their financial policies. I leave that to my front desk. Okay? For the docs who are listening, do not undermine their authority. Defer to the front desk when it comes to collections. All right? Point number 5. You want to provide payment options. Aside from Visa, MasterCard, and things like that, you want to consider payment options aside from the standard cash, check, Visa, MasterCard. And that may involve Care Credit. And I have no financial relationship with Care Credit, other than the fact that we've been using them for many years. Care Credit, payment options, consider offering them. The last thing I would do is to offer a payment plan. So what is a payment plan? This means that the patient owes you $1,000. You are going to collect $200 every week or every month. So what does that mean? You're extending credit. That's what that means. You're extending credit to the patient. When banks offer credit to you, what are they doing? They are taking a risk, and normally they will obtain collateral from you, meaning you're borrowing against your house. All right? They're going to try to come after you if you don't satisfy the terms of your payment. They're going to garnish your wages. When you, the practice, is offering a payment plan, you are offering an uncollateralized loan to the patient. Once again, you are offering an uncollateralized loan to the patient, the highest risk loan that you can offer somebody. They're not offering any collateral to you, and yet you are going to give them a line of credit based on hoping and praying that they would pay. So anyway, that's why I say payment plans are truly the last option. Point number 6, and this was heard during that Urology Advanced Coding and Reimbursement seminar. Somebody said, well, I have a front desk person who's just not comfortable asking for money. Her discomfort in asking for money is now leading to your inability to be able to practice and run a sustainable practice, because it's a lot of money that you're leaving on the table by somebody not asking for what is rightfully yours. For those people who are uncomfortable asking for the money that is due the practice, you want to consider retasking her in another role or another position, or unfortunately, that's maybe the person that you don't want to keep in the practice, because if you don't have anywhere for her to go, you may need to find someone who is comfortable asking for money that is due the practice. The questions that somebody brought up was, would this employee be okay if she worked a 40-hour week and the practice simply gives her an IOU and no promise of when she's going to be paid, right? And that hopefully will bring clarity to the person who is uncomfortable in asking for the amount that is due the practice. And number 7, if you have not been collecting upfront and are looking to change, there's going to be a change in your policy. You need to inform the patients of the change in this policy. Again, not having, getting a surprise bill is bad, but also getting a surprise change in policy without clearly communicating this by the staff, by your office, to the patient is going to cause big headaches and big problems. If the patient's unwilling to continue that relationship with your practice, maybe that patient needs to go somewhere else, right? So whatever the case may be, you need to communicate that to the patient before the visit. Pre-visit documentation or document that the patient signs acknowledging understanding and agreement to this new policy will be very worthwhile to you. Point number 8, when it comes to effective front desk collections, the payment of copayment, coinsurance, unmet deductible is the patient's agreement with their insurance plan. Collecting or their payment of the copay, coinsurance, unmet deductible is her agreement with her insurance plan. And you collecting that is your obligation based on your insurance plans, policies that you've agreed to. It is your obligation to collect that. Otherwise, you will not be in compliance with the insurance plan, and the patient will not be in compliance with their insurance plan. So this is their insurance plan that they signed up for, okay? Everybody's just following the rules. You're not being the bad person by collecting what is due your practice. Point number 9, I heard patients say that, hey, you know what? My primary care doctor doesn't collect this up front. My pediatrician does not collect this up front. Why are you doing that? Why are you collecting up front? Well, my response is, just because other practices aren't doing what is right and what is smart does not mean that you should follow suit, okay? Just because other people are doing it doesn't mean you should. And I feel sorry for those other practices because they're not doing things correctly. They're hurting themselves and also hurting everyone else. And I think educating all the practices in the area to do the same, to collect up front, would be a great thing because they would be in compliance with their medical plan, their insurance plans, and you're doing what's correct for the practice and keeping the patient accountable for what they signed up to do. Those patients who don't want to pay you, do you really want to continue seeing them? Or are you better off seeing patients that align with your values? Those patients who don't want to sign the financial policy that you set forth, do you want to see those patients? Do you want to continue seeing those patients? You have that. That's something you have to answer, that you can only you can answer. All right. One of the attendees also said that if the patient asks to be billed for their copay, coinsurance, unmet deductible, etc., you want to inform him that there will be a billing fee, $10, $15, $20 for you to bill the patient. Why? Because if I were to ask my practice management software clearinghouse to send a bill to the patient, it literally costs me money. Postage, whatever the fees they charge. If you are generating a bill and your practice, your team member is printing the bill, putting it in an envelope, sending it to the patient, that is not free. You're paying that person. You're paying the postage. Somebody has to maintain the infrastructure for the practice management software, has to look up look up the statement, print out the bill. None of that is free. It costs a practice. So I think it's absolutely appropriate, if you desire, to bill the patient an additional fee if they don't want to meet their financial obligation at the time of the visit. Point number 11. One practice manager, actually in Arizona, her comment during the seminar was that she determined the total amount that is anticipated to be collected for the day of the, so she figures out the day before, for tomorrow, what is the total amount that should be collected. And what she does is that she rewards the staff if they meet a certain metric, maybe 99.5% collections or something like that. Also, remediation is done if the goal is not met. Keep in mind, this is money that is due your practice, that you should be collecting. But if you have not been doing, if the front desk hasn't been doing it, maybe this is an incentive that you can start by encouraging them to do what is right for the practice. And at the outset, you want to set goals and maybe lay out the rules or policy that this is a temporary thing, because the front desk should have been doing this from the get-go. If you're not doing it, you are encouraging them to do it. You're encouraging them to do the job that they should have been doing. But anyway, whether or not you continue that reward or bonus is up to you. But if you decide to do this, you want to set clear goals and clear policies that this bonus may or may not continue indefinitely. Lastly, for effective front desk collections, because insurance companies lie, you all know that. Whenever you get a prior authorization, on their message, it clearly says prior authorization does not mean guarantee of payment. Likewise, when they tell you the copay, coinsurance, and unmet deductible, it may not be accurate. So you can only do what you can do. You base on the estimated charges to the patient by what the insurance companies tell you. Often, they tell you wrong information and you collect too much from the patient at the time of the service. As a consequence, when you collect up front, you may need to write a stack of refund checks. For me, I don't even want to keep 50 cents from the patient when it's not my money. I've written a check for less than $1 back to the patient because I don't keep what's not mine. The consequence of you collecting up front may mean that you will have to write a stack of refund checks every single month back to the patient. Yes, that does take work. It does take energy and that stamp to send that money back. It costs you sometimes, when you write that less than $1 check, it costs you more to send that check than what is reasonable, really. But I still don't want to keep that dollar, all right? During the Urology Advanced Coding and Reimbursement seminar meetings, I have asked this numerous times over the years. I've asked the billing staff, would you rather collect the money up front, or would you rather chase after the dollar after the service has been rendered? Over years, and we're talking hundreds of attendees, no one has ever said they would rather chase after the money. Everyone wants to collect up front. So you might want to consider doing that. And the analogy I bring is, to a famished person, someone who is starving, that piece of bread, that sandwich is priceless. Once that piece of bread is consumed and the person is satiated, the value of that bread and sandwich goes way down. Likewise, when you have a patient in urinary retention, when you have a patient with obstructing stone, renal colic, hydronephrosis, kidney failure, the value of your services is priceless. Literally, they would give their life for your service. However, once that service is delivered, the value of that service, I've already got my problem taken care of, right? Why should I pay you now? So keep that in mind as you go forth and discuss this with your front desk staff on how to effectively collect up front, because this is the right thing to do. You're following your contract, and you should be doing this, or else you risk losing a ton of money. And you can't afford to do that now, especially with Medicare constantly cutting payment conversion factor 3.4% right off the bat. And if you look at historical trends, taking into account inflation, urologists have been getting no raises over the last 15 to 20 years. How can anybody sustain a practice, right? If you're not even collecting what is due you, you're going to be eliminated from the market. You're not going to be able to sustain your practice. And I can't have that happen to you, because as I get older, this is selfish me talking now, as I get older, I cannot have you close shop. And the last thing I would want you to do is become a corporate practice of medicine, where they private equity will buy you up and then have you practice medicine in a corporate fashion, or worse yet, hospital buys you. Okay, I need private practices to stay afloat, to stay thriving and successful, because one day I will need the service. Okay, there's a shortage of urologists. That need will not be met until 20 years, at least in the future. There's going to be there's already a shortage of urologists. I need you to be thriving. I need you to be working extremely well. I need you all to be extremely successful so you can continue to run your practice, to give pay raises to your staff, to buy updated equipment, and be able to sustain your practice. As always, if you have any questions, comments, suggestions, agreements, or disagreements, please leave them below. Thank you so much for the privilege of your time. Please take care of yourself and take care of each other. Bye-bye.